Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to finally build and fly my first drone that is equipped with the SharkBite/HDZero digital video transmission system. As you can see, most of the items that I've got here on the table are by Foxeer, so in this build and flight video I'm going to feature the Datura AIO frame, the Reaper all-in-one flight controller, the Datura 2105.5 1650 kV motors, the Digisight V3 digital FPV camera, and the Lollipop 4 Plus antenna. In addition, in this new build, I'm also going to use the Flywoo GM8 Mini V2, a GPS unit that features an integrated compass, and last but certainly not least, the SharkBite TX5S1 digital video transmitter. Let's start with a quick overview of the Foxeer Reaper all-in-one flight controller. In terms of packaging, here you can see everything that comes inside its box. So along with the all-in-one flight controller, you're getting a bag with both XT30 and XT60 battery connectors, 10 cm long 14 and 16 gauge battery leads, a 35 volts 470 microfarad capacitor, a 7-pins joystick connector, which is going to enable you to quickly connect the all-in-one flight controller to a digital VTX, and a bag that contains heat rings, M2 screws and nuts, rubber O-rings, and silicone grommets. In terms of features and specs, the Reaper all-in-one flight controller features an F7 processor, an integrated 45 amperes BLLES 4-in-1 ESC, 4.5 UART ports, and a joystick connector, which you can use, for example, for connecting it directly to the DJI Air unit. Pay attention though that it only has an onboard 5 volts BC, so in case you are going to connect the DJI Air unit to this connector, it is going to be powered via the battery voltage, and it's important to note it, as in case you are going to use a setup which is greater than 4S, you will need to use an external DC in order to power the DJI Air unit. In addition, the weight of the flight controller is 9.2 grams. It's using 25.5 by 25.5 mm M3 mounting holes, and its outer dimensions are 32.5 by 32.5 by 6.4 mm. Moving on to the Datura 2105.5 motors. These motors are available in 2 kV options, 1650 kV, which is the version that I'm going to test in this video, and is compatible with up to 6S batteries when pushing 5-inch propellers, and 2950 kV, which are compatible with up to 4S batteries. As for its specs, the weight of the motor, including the full length of the 15 cm long silicone-coated wires, is 22.1 grams. It's using a 12 by 12 mm motor mounting pattern. The diameter of the motor shaft is 3 mm, and using a provided adapter, it can be extended to 5 mm. Now, as you can see, I've got the motors along with the all-in-one flight controller and the Crossfire Nano SC receiver mounted on the Datura AIO frame, and the next component that I'm going to add to this build is the Flywoo GoPro GM8 Mini GPS unit. This GPS unit is very similar to the previous version that was released by Flywoo, and the only difference between the two is that now it features an integrated compass, which is connected to the flight controller using the SCL and SDA pads. The weight of this small GPS unit is 4.7 grams, and it is going to fit well inside the 3D printed GPS mount, which is provided with the Datura AIO frame. As for connecting the GPS unit to the flight controller, via its connector, power it using 5 volts, and connect the RX and TX ports on the GPS unit to a free UART port on the flight controller. Keep in mind that RX goes to TX and vice versa, and you will need to solder wires from the SCA and SDL pads on the flight controller to the SCA and SDL pads on the GPS unit. Unlike the UART port, SCL goes to SCL and SDA goes to SDL, and here you can see the configuration of the GPS unit on Betaflight. Moving on to the Foxeer Lollipop 4 Plus antenna. This antenna comes as a set of 2. It's available in multiple colors, both RCP and LCP polarizations, 2 length, and with multiple connector types. Here you can see what it looks like after disassembling the pretty robust outer shell of the antenna. The weight of the 85mm long UFL version is 3.3 grams, and according to the AIO FC SWR meter, which is not a professional grade tool, but still gives us a good estimation about the performance of the antenna, the best results is going to be achieved when the frequency is going to be set to 5685. As for the Foxeer Digisight 3 camera, it's available in different colors, with either standard or a starlight lens. The resolution is 720p 60 frames per second. The only supported aspect ratio is 16:9. It comes bundled with either a 15 cm long, 8 cm long, or without a MIPI cable, and it is only supported by the FatShark/HDZero SharkBite digital system. In addition, the weight of the camera, including the 15 cm long MIPI cable, is 9.7 grams, and its outer dimensions are 19 by 19 by 24.5 millimeters. Now, as you can see, this new build is ready. Unfortunately, because the Foxeer Lollipop 4 Plus antenna that I had wasn't long enough, I had to use this antenna by Flywoo, and basically, in order to complete the build and setup procedure, I've mounted the SharkBite TX5 S.1 VTX on top of the Reaper all-in-one flight controller, and I've connected it to this JST connector, so it is connected to UART number 2, and it is powered using the battery voltage. In addition, in order to overlay the OSD data on the digital FPV feed, the MSP/configuration switch must be enabled next to the UART port, which is connected to the SharkBite digital VTX. In my case, it is UART number 2, and these commands, which should be adjusted depending on the UART port that you are going to use, must be entered in the CLI tab. Don't forget to type save and press enter in order for these values to be saved. And finally, since this is the first time that I'm using the SharkBite system, I had to update both receiver and VTX models to the latest available firmware version in order for the Foxeer Digisight 3 camera to work. I'm not going to cover in this video the SharkBite firmware updating procedure, but it's pretty simple, and basically it will require you to place the firmware files inside the root folder of a microSD card, place it inside the microSD card slot of the receiver module, power it up, wait for the firmware updating procedure to be completed, then power it again, now with the VTX connected to the firmware update port, wait for the VTX firmware update to be done, and then you'll be good to go. As for this new build, without a battery, it weighs 252.6 grams, including a GapRC branded 1100 mAh Forest LHV battery. The total weight is 373.6 grams, and the total weight, including a CNHL 850 mAh 6S LiPo battery, is 404.4 grams. Now, while this build is not very light, after testing it out, I can tell you that it's definitely a very powerful one. Using this Forest battery, you'll be able to obtain between 5 to 10 minutes of flight time, depending on how you fly, and you'll be able to easily carry a lightweight action camera. And using this 6S battery, you'll be able to get probably between 3 to 5 minutes of flight time, again, depending on how you fly, and you'll be able to carry a full-sized action camera. In addition, I also think that this setup is going to work well with a 4S lithium-ion battery pack, and I might perform an endurance test on an upcoming video. As for my initial impression of the SharkBite/HDZero digital system, while the quality and range are not going to be as good as on the DJI digital FPV system, the video does seem to be a little bit more smooth, so this system is going to be better for FPV racing and for smaller drones such as Whoops. And again, this is only my initial impression, since I only got to use it for a few battery packs, and hopefully soon I will be able to provide you with more feedback and perform a couple of range tests. Anyway, now I'm going to wrap up this video with some flight footage. I hope you will enjoy the rest of this video, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section down below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the notifications bell if you're not already subscribed. See you on my next videos, and goodbye.
you.